To protest or not to protest? 'Tis the question. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. And first of all, as always, thank you to everybody who subscribes, all 56 of you. Big fans of you. Encourage your friends to like and subscribe, or don't. It's up to you. Maybe you just like listening to my voice. And if you do, may my soothing, dulcet tones, put you to sleep or something. Anyways, to protest or not to protest? That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to, I don't know. I was quoting Shakespeare and messing with protesting. Anyways, the question is coming up recently due to pro-Palestine protests on numerous college campuses that are trying to force college campuses to divest from certain investments that benefit Israel. Now, before anybody says these kids don't know what they're talking about, no kids know what they're talking about. And yet, the Vietnam War protests were some of the most significant cultural moves of the 20th century. We're into the 21st century now, and so now we're looking at probably these pro-Palestine movements as some significant cultural events. Whether you agree with the cultural event or not doesn't change its significance. I've talked on the podcast before about my personal feelings on Israel and Palestine, right? I have all the sympathy in the world for the Palestinians. I have no sympathy for Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization masquerading as a government. That's just the facts as I see them. And it's not easy for me to say, and it's not an easy opinion for me to parse out, because I have friends who feel very strongly about the conflict on both sides. I have friends who feel very strongly on the side of Israel, and I have friends who feel very strongly on the side of the Palestinians. And the Palestinians, for them in a lot of cases, includes the current government of Palestine, which is Hamas. Look, whatever way you feel about it, it's a classically conservative move to say you shouldn't protest it. What the kids are protesting is not necessarily one way or the other. They're protesting the investments made by certain colleges into companies that are essentially profiteering from the conflict. I'm all for that, not profiteering. I'm all for divesting investments from and away. Sorry, hang on one second to make sure. I'm all for forcing an institution to divest away from profiteering companies. And specifically, when we say war profiteering, we mean people who are either working in the background to, if not incite conflict, then to encourage it. Think of the BlackRocks of the world. Even Boeing, these guys, all of them are involved in the military-industrial complex. And it is a significant concern. It's been a significant concern since World War II, and yet we've continued to feed the monster. In that sense, these protests are very good and they're getting stuff done. The problem I have with it is that in a lot of cases, it's been caught on video. You can't tell me it's not happening. In a lot of cases, these have turned violent, and not violent in a way that is just self-defense. They're turning violent against Jewish students. So these protests have gone from simply standing up for what you feel is an occupied people to becoming directly anti-Semitic. And when I say anti-Semitic, I don't mean the Semite peoples, I mean the Jewish peoples. Your right to protest does not include the right to beat someone. It doesn't include your right to hit them even once. And it doesn't include your right to block somebody from going to a place they have a legal right to go. Certainly, you have the right to scream and shout, and personally, I think you have the right to scream and shout whatever you want. You can say as many, you know what? You can say whatever you want to say, because words aren't violence. However, at no point do you get to inflict physical violence. At no point do you get to impede somebody's way, and at no point do you get to just have whatever, do whatever you'd like. At the point at which you begin to both destroy property and assault people, It is no longer a protest. It is a mob. That's just the way it is. And if you don't like that, well, frankly, this may not be the area you want to get involved in then. The point at which you start to wear masks and you start to hide your identity, but then scream and cry that you have all the protections in the world to do what you're doing, you're not doing it, right? You're just making crap up. Your First Amendment right protects your right to speak and certainly protects your right to peacefully protest. But it does not protect your right to form an angry mob. The January 6th insurrection, if we can call it that, wasn't really very effective. The January 6th insurrection was not protected by the First Amendment, even though it was largely the same as many of these college protests. If you've seen some of the videos coming out of UCLA, you know it's just as rowdy down there. They're just not invading a government building. They just don't happen to be walking in. UCLA is a public institution, I believe. So it is technically a government building, but they're not walking into the building, right? Plus, they're kids. We're not going to hold them to the same standard that we would hold adults, and we shouldn't. But even kids don't get away with physical violence. It's just not a thing you can do. If you want to protest peacefully and make your point, you certainly can do that, and you certainly have a right to do that, and you certainly have numerous ways of doing that. Encamping, forming encampments on a college campus is a great way to do that. But at no point do you have the right to hit someone. You just don't, except in self-defense. At the point at which physical violence has started, somebody is in the wrong, and it's the person who started it that is in the wrong, and it doesn't matter that you are waving a pro-Palestine sign. You don't get magical protection just because you were in the middle of a peaceful protest. And you especially don't get magical protection when that assault is also a hate crime. You just don't get it. Look, you want to peacefully protest either side. You want to peacefully protest on behalf of Israel. You want to peacefully protest on behalf of Palestine. You want to peacefully protest on behalf of Hamas. Go ahead. I disagree with you if you protest on behalf of Hamas directly, but you have a right to say what you want. I have a right to disagree with it. At no point do we have a right to hit each other. It's just the facts. You have the right to swing your fist in any direction you'd like to swing it, up to the point of my face. That is a kind of classical thought exercise on the protections of the First Amendment. You have the right to swing your fist until it hits my face. It's not quite that simple in practice, but that is the general process, right? You have all the movement in the world until you make contact with me. Then you violated, then in the exercise of your right, you violated my right. Make sense? Look, there's been some success with these protests. They've gotten universities like Columbia to promise to look into divesting from these war profiteers. And I think that's a good thing overall. I don't really think that colleges should be aggressively investing their endowments into war profiteering. They can make similar gains investing in other things. But again, if you are out there and you're protesting, do me a huge favor. Keep it peaceful. You want to shout whatever you want to say, shout whatever you want to say. Just remember that people have a right to shout back, and keep it calm. And remember, no matter who you're shouting at, you both live in the same country. That's all I got for you today. I don't know if it makes sense. If it does, like and subscribe. If it doesn't, I don't know, leave a mean comment. And if you leave a mean comment, I'll probably engage with you because I don't have a ton of hobbies. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.